Devil May Cry is a hack-and-slash video game franchise where you play as Dante, a half-human, half-demon devil hunter. I've been meaning to get into this franchise for a long while. I remember buying Devil May Cry 1 and 3 on my Nintendo Switch when they were on sale a few years ago. I did not bother buying 2, however, as that's the worst game in the franchise from what I've heard, and I haven't heard anyone recommend it. Oh boy, I sure hope it is not of importance in the future, since I really don't want to play it. I really loved what I played of Devil May Cry 1, as it was fun exploring an ancient castle full of demons. As far as what I played of Devil May Cry 3, which I did not get too far in, I really loved the fast-paced combat. However, unfortunately, I struggled with the games as I got frustrated with 2 bosses from both and put off playing the games for a while. Despite initially struggling with the older games, I ended up giving Devil May Cry 5 a try as my good buddy Ramen gifted me a copy of it on Steam that came with the Virgil DLC. While what I played of the game was fun, it is the 5th installment in the series, so I felt a bit lost. So with me initially struggling with 2 of the older games, along with the fact I was out of the loop with the story of 5, I was in dire need for an easy entry point into the franchise. That entry point ended up being the Netflix animated series Devil May Cry. The show is quite divisive at the moment, as it is not fully accurate to the source material. However, personally, I liked it. It has flaws, obviously, I will admit, but it is a well put together series that stands well on its own. It looked to be a great new entry point for the franchise, especially with it being made by Adi Shankar, who created another show I reviewed previously titled Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon Remix. That show was badass and overall really enjoyable. That series took Ubisoft video game characters and remixed them into one big shared universe. So with him involved, I knew this show would be good. The promotional material had me hyped, especially the reveal of the theme song of the show, which was Rollin' by Limp Bizkit. From an outsider's perspective, Netflix Devil May Cry looked to me to be a love letter to the games in the early 2000s in general. I ended up watching the show and I liked it. However, when I went online after watching the show, I noticed that a large number of fans of the games were not too kind. I am not here to argue that fans who want an accurate adaptation are wrong, but I'd rather judge the show on its own merits. While I am aware it's a far from perfect adaptation, I overall enjoyed the show and it got me interested in the franchise as a whole, motivating me to pick up the games again. Because of Devil May Cry becoming my latest hyperfixation thanks to DMC Netflix, I've decided to take a look at that show and see how it compares to the canon anime from 2007. So without further ado, it's time to dive into the Devil May Cry anime from a newbie perspective. The Netflix series starts strong with the White Rabbit being introduced as the villain of this season. He hires mercenaries to steal a sword from the Vatican called the Force Edge that used to belong to the demon Sparta. He kills the mercenaries in a cool way as he dodges bullets with the sword. After killing them, Vatican guards show up. He kills them, then goes on a monologue about how he wants to wage war on the humans as the Age of the Demon is coming. But a villain is not interesting without a hero to face off against, which leads to us seeing Dante for the first time. This version of Dante in this Netflix show is clearly younger than the original incarnation in the games. We see him rescue a woman and her daughter from some demons as he cracks a one-liner. Jackpot! He even has it written on the bullets, which is a cool detail. However, as it turns out, a shapeshifter demon has replaced the baby and it attempts to kill Dante. He tries to attack it, but the mom pulls the carriage away. Dante is bummed out since he was looking forward to fighting the demon. Then we get the banger opening, which uses the song Rollin' by Limp Bizkit, which I cannot play on YouTube sadly as it's a copyrighted song. What's wild is several years ago, multiple fans made music videos videos that mix Devil May Cry game clips with this song, so this really is a full circle moment. This right here is an official AMV, and it is one of the things I overall really appreciate about this show. It is a love letter to early 2000s internet, gaming, and anime fandom. Hell, episode 6 full-on solidifies this aspect as it's a canon AMV that includes an Evanescence song created specifically for the show. However, I am getting ahead of myself. Following the opening, we see the worldwide hysteria after the massacre at the Vatican. It's here we see the news organizations of the world ponder who could be behind this attack. A news station believes it to be an attack from Russia, but a conspiracy theory radio host disagrees, seeing the real culprit as demon terrorists. He gets mocked by a late-night talk show host as being insane. However, Vice President Baines views the threat as serious when a credible physicist named Dr. Fisher confirms demons do exist in a parallel dimension. Dr. Fisher works for Darkcom, a demon hunting group that is in part funded by Baines. Soon they find video of the White Rabbit's massacre where he relays a message.
If you want to get a rabbit, find the hunter.
It's here we get context of when the show takes place. An alternate reality similar to her own, presumably after the Bush administration, as the president of this universe mentions the last guy he had to worry about, Saddam Hussein. Yeah, this line alone makes it clear as day what the social commentary of this show is about. The early 2000s US war on terror. Not entirely sure if this was intentional, but Rollin' by Limp Bizkit being the intro is fitting, given the show takes place in a post 9/11 world, with that being the last music video shot on the Twin Towers. Anyway, demons are somehow entering the human world, but so far only lower level ones are able to enter. Baines mentions that with the confirmation of hell, the holy war is here, so they end up capturing demon hunters in an effort to find out who the rabbit was talking about. Following that, we see Dante at a diner he is a regular at. The waitress gives Dante her number, but he ends up wiping his face with the napkin it is written on. He is about to enjoy his ice cream, but suddenly a new threat appears as a gasoline truck is thrown behind him, which ends up blowing up the diner. Dante saves the civilians and then is greeted by his brother Virgil, who he is shocked to see as he believed he died in front of him as a kid. However, it turns out it is instead a blue shape-shifting cyclops called Plasma, who was the demon baby he was fighting earlier. The blue demon tries to steal Dante's red amulet, but he gets it back and defeats him. The demon tells Dante he's frustrated he does not know who he truly is. The demon then turns into a bat and flies away before Dante can finish the job. Dante's guns are then revealed to be destroyed, with him upset as breaking them is revealed to be a normal thing he deals with. While that's happening, one of the demon hunters brings attention to Enzo Farino, a broker who gives jobs to devil hunters who recently met the White Rabbit. Enzo, after getting captured, reveals that he got paid by the rabbit to hire Dante, who he personally requested. The White Rabbit's location is known, but he slaughtered all but one Darkcom agent who was sent to his location. Enzo then gets questioned about Sparta, and it is here we learn that he was a noble demon who sealed the demon realm from the human world using his sword along with an amulet, which ended up being split into two. Anders, the one survivor of the White Rabbit, reveals that he is close on the hunter's trail and plans to set him up in order to get the remaining side of the amulet. So, with the White Rabbit having the sword and one of the amulet pieces, Dante has the remaining one. This means he is now in Baines and Darkcom's crosshairs. The episode ends with him doing a goofy dance, which is very impressive, but unfortunately it leads to a game over in Dance Dance Revolution. Overall, this is a strong first episode as it introduces the season's antagonist, the White Rabbit, the threat he poses, and showcases Dante, the primary hero of this series, in a badass fun way. Anyway, now that I've broken down the first episode, for the rest of the review I'll be organizing everything by character and their arcs in the first season of the show, rather than go episode by episode. The characters I will be focusing on for this section are Dante, Mary Arkham, aka Lady, and the season-long antagonist, the White Rabbit. These three characters get the most focus in the show, and I found all their backstories very interesting. After going through their arcs in the show, I'll go over the season finale and how all their stories culminate.
How the fuck? Don't feel bad. I heal extremely fast. Like a superhero. Not that I call myself a superhero, but your mom does.
Oh, brother, this guy's...
Starting things off, Dante in this first season is clearly going through his origin story. He is unaware he's part demon and doesn't have his iconic guns from the games, Ebony and Ivory, yet. Dante is very early in his demon hunting career, with him not running his own business in a building which fans of the games know as Devil May Cry. Instead, Dante takes jobs from Enzo, a character who, while not in the games, is a part of the lore of DMC. He's a manga and novel-only character. However, his character got repurposed for the Bayonetta games. Hideki Kamiya not only created the first Devil May Cry game, but Bayonetta as well, and concept art implies this is the same Enzo as Dante is seen playing strip poker with him. In this show's universe, the two have a complicated relationship. While Dante likes getting demon hunting jobs from Enzo, he distrusts him after realizing he got set up with his most recent job. He reassures the demon hunter that he did not know what the White Rabbit intended. While he's scummy and clearly setting up Dante yet again, one aspect I like about Enzo is that he sees Dante like a son. He tells Dante he'd take a jab from a blade for him, which ends up being major foreshadowing. Dante then catches on that Enzo was leading the demon hunters to his place who are after his amulet. Obviously, like I said earlier at the start of the series, Dante is not as overpowered as he is in the games. Despite that, he is still very skilled and has superhuman abilities due to him being half demon, which are on full display when the demon hunters show up at his apartment. My favorite scene is when he uses his super speed to sneak into the crowd firing at him. Who are we shooting at? It's here we learn Dante even has a healing factor. The demon hunters are all no match for Dante, who they initially believed would be easy to beat as they severely underestimate him. Even a guy who actually met Dante named Arnie, who's clearly gone through physical damage due to needing metal plating, warns them to not go after him. Only for him to cave after hearing the bounty is $500K.
Ain't no amount of money you could offer that'd be worth it.
500,000. The bounty is 500,000 for whoever brings in Dante with the amulet. And a bonus if he's alive for questioning.
Well, all right. Well, let's go get him then.
He tries to nicely offer Dante a 50-50 split to turn in his amulet and attempts to grab him. However, he effortlessly knocks him out. He knew this would happen, but chased the bag anyway. Gotta respect it. While Dante mows through the demon hunters like it's nothing, Mary, who Dante calls Lady, is able to capture Dante and his amulet. This leads to him being stuck in her Darkcom truck along with Enzo. One funny detail that gets revealed in the second episode is that this Devil May Cry show seems to take place in a shared Capcom universe.
Gotta be the second worst job you ever gave me.
Oh, you mean after the Raccoon City job?
Third worst.
This location from Resident Evil being referenced is funny since Devil May Cry 1 was almost the fourth entry in the series before being turned into its own game. Afterwards, Dante speaks to Vice President Baines on a call. He goes on a whole religious speech about how, despite him being half demon, God can cleanse him and that all he needs to do is work alongside Darkcom. Lady, however, disagrees since she hates all demons. However, Bane sees Dante as a gift from God that can aid him in his holy war. Soon, the White Rabbit makes a grand entrance and shoots a rocket at the Darkcom truck. With the assistance of Anders, who is a double agent to protect his daughters, he gets the second amulet. Chaos erupts in the streets as the White Rabbit has an army of demons at his disposal. Dante gets freed by Anders, and he manages to stop a rocket with his sword that was aimed towards a bus of children. Dante then rides a motorcycle and follows the truck the White Rabbit is in as Last Resort by Papa Roach plays. Again, I really love the early 2000s music in this show. He fights some demons along the way, then catches up to the truck, but unfortunately, the bomb Lady put in his head earlier blows up. The White Rabbit, who knows more about Dante than he does, then says he'll push him harder and calls him the son of Sparta. While knocked out by the explosive, Dante ends up reminiscing on his past. His childhood is very interesting, with his mother giving him and his brother Virgil 2 amulets. Virgil gets jealous of Dante, leading to a fight where we see how powerful they truly are at a young age. They are knocking over furniture with their raw strength. With that raw power they had as kids, it must have been mad painful when they both were kicking in her womb. Dante then dreams about the time his mother told him a story about his father, who was a warrior of some sort. He then wakes up and sees he, along with Vice President Baines, are tied up in an airplane. 2 demons named Agni and Rudra are there, and they play a video of the White Rabbit, who educates Dante on his father Sparta, who he calls a deadbeat. He hates that he locked down the demon realm since Mundus took over and worsened things. He plans to kill everyone on the plane unless Dante can activate his devil trigger, which is a mechanic from the video games. At first, Dante is ignorant of his true strength, despite Enzo trying to convince him otherwise. However, he activates it after Agni and Rudra tease him about his mother and brother's deaths. A woman resembling his mom is the cause of him awakening his power. Dante ends up killing Rudra, which leads to Agni destroying the plane in revenge. He ends up saving the woman who resembles his mom via parachute. Dante gives parachutes to a few other people, however, he ends up fully activating his devil trigger and ends up saving Baines, Enzo, and some others once he runs out of parachutes. Dante ends up fighting Agni for a bit, and Lady kills him after the 2 land. The White Rabbit then says in a message left for Dante and Lady that he needs him to fight alone. The Devil Hunter wants to show up, but Lady realizes he wants his blood to open the demon realm, so she locks him in her truck. Dante, however, after some time passes, does escape the truck and ends up confronting the White Rabbit, who paralyzed Lady. It's here the White Rabbit shows what the demon realm Makai has truly become. Ever since the world was sealed by Sparta, the air has become toxic as Mundus has fully taken it over. The White Rabbit wants to combine realms, however, the issue that arises is that more dangerous demons will cross over into Earth, which Dante calls genocide. Dante faces off against his army and ends up getting pushed into Makai, while Lady and the White Rabbit have a talk where he reveals he is a creation of her own design, which I'll get into later. Anyway, Dante realizes the White Rabbit is human. He gets hurt pretty bad and is about to fall, but he manages to get his amulet back. Before his fall, though, the White Rabbit tells him it is too late for him to join his side. Overall, Dante's journey up to this point was really cool to see. It was nice seeing him learn about his demon heritage, and he was a fun character to follow.
Ow! What's in that thing?
I watched you fighting and wondered, what the fuck kind of person can just shake off bullets like that?
Really, really awesome one? I'm a soldier.
Next up is Lieutenant Mary Arkham, who, like Dante, I will be calling Lady for this video. Out of all the characters from this show, she has been the biggest point of contention when people criticize it. The criticism of Lady in the show I've heard online is that she is very different from her game counterpart. That is because she swears quite a bit and her demon hunting gets a bit more complicated with the twists the show ends up doing. I'll get to that in a bit, but I want to state right here that I didn't fully hate her character in the show. Yeah, she can be a bit grating with the swearing, but given this version of the character is a tough-as-nails member of a demon hunting militia, it fits in the show's alternate universe. Still, I get why people were put off by this different take. Lady in this show plays the role of a foil to Dante. She can tell right away he's a demon due to witnessing his healing factor, even having a hunch he may have a connection to Sparta early on. She notices when a demon bullet hits him that he must be part demon. While Dante manages to take down other demon hunters effortlessly, she ends up outmatching him and taking his amulet. At first, Lady is distrusting of Dante due to being aware he is half demon and even puts a bomb in his head so he can't escape. She even disagrees with Baines, who says he might be useful. However, once Lady and Dante separate, she learns more about the demons she is fighting against. She, along with her fellow Darkham soldiers, end up infiltrating the White Rabbit's hideout. Lady and them are quickly greeted by Cavalier Angelo, who ends up killing them all as Echidna, the plant demon, restrains her. Luckily, she is able to escape at the cost of her team dying. She takes shelter in an apartment she believes to belong to a human. However, it turns out to be a family of non-threatening refugees from the demon realm who are called Makaians. Lady almost kills them, but spares them after they educate her on how Makai's air has become poisonous. They went to Earth because the human realm was much safer for them. The White Rabbit opened a portal with a device that allowed them to enter Earth. They don't approve of the White Rabbit's actions, like experimenting on orphans, but they had nowhere else to go. It's here Lady learns that not all the demons she was fighting against are bad. She even ends up teaming up with one of the demons, that being Plasma, who she catches on to impersonating a soldier of Darkham right away due to him using the term Makaian. The two form a truce, and she offers him access to Darkham, and he ends up pretending to be Lady so she can sneak attack Echidna. She ends up telling Darkham soldiers to rescue the Makaians from the building, hoping they will be at Darkham headquarters. However, Baines orders them to be killed. Lady then arrives at the top of the apartment, hoping to find the amulet, but the rabbit only left the tracker on a teacup. She also sees tortured rabbit plushes which mimic the Darkham soldiers the demons killed earlier. Damn, White Rabbit is the ultimate hater. He ends up trying to bait Dante to go fight him alone. Plasma then blows up the apartment complex and Dante saves Lady. Now I think is a good time to talk about Lady's past. She was always interested in hunting demons growing up, with her watching horror films and playing pretend with her childhood friend. She had a loving mother and father, however a rift comes between the two. After witnessing a demon nearly attack Mary, he becomes a shut-in and studies demons. He wants to do this to protect his daughter, but his wife is upset he's become very distant. He ends up injecting himself with demon blood, which eventually turns him into a demonic hybrid who looks similar to
Nosferatu!
Prior to this reveal in the AMV episode, The Ninth Circle, Lady was haunted by visions of him. Mary's father ends up dying in a fire after killing her mother. She then leaves her home and eventually joins Darkham. Lady's father, prior to being in the show, was a villain called Arkham in Devil May Cry 3. I really hope this isn't the last we see of him and that he appears in a future season. Lady's backstory here is interesting, as we nearly got a manga fully exploring it. It got scrapped, but Adi Shankar claims to have read a version of it. Anyway, after joining Darkham, Lady ended up creating the villain of the series, that being the White Rabbit. She ends up killing all his demon friends after being startled by a bigger, more threatening demon who was chasing them while they were entering through his portal. This moment was foreshadowed actually when Lady notes she ran into non-threatening demons before in a prior incident.
But they're still demons, right?
Not like the ones I signed up to kill. I think it might be more complicated than that. It reminded me of something my team and I saw once. It doesn't matter right now.
When the true identity is revealed to her, Lady notes that she should have known the White Rabbit was human due to him being a different kind of evil. Anyway, speaking of which...
God bless America!
White Rabbit is by all means a terrorist who despises the United States due to its war against demons. He was a child who loved Alice in Wonderland, who became alienated by humans due to being abused during that point in his life. So he ended up finding refuge in the demon realm after seeing a portal open to it, where he befriended several Makaians. I really love the scenes that take place in Makai, as the art style changes when the White Rabbit enters it. The world looks colorful and fun, and the art style reminded me a lot of Hilda. However, that fun ends as one of the White Rabbit's childhood friends dies from the poison air. Things get bleak for him and the Makaians to the point he burns his Alice in Wonderland book for warmth. Eventually, out of desperation, he creates a device with a crystal he found during one of his early adventures. He then uses it so Machaians can enter Earth. However, like I said, Lady and Darkom end up killing his friends, leading to his path of villainy. This episode is a good example of sympathy for the villain. He was turned into a villain due to Lady's actions, with him calling himself her masterpiece. Throughout the show, I really enjoyed seeing him on screen. The scene with him on the plane definitely gave off the Dark Knight Joker vibes, since it reminded me of the boat scene. Totally different situations, sure, but he definitely posed a similar threat. The White Rabbit definitely served the story in a great way. He was a fun way to give insight on Dante's demonic bloodline and the true nature of Darkom. The human twist overall was interesting. The White Rabbit is the perfect mix of goofy and menacing, especially the scene where he deflects the grenade at the doctor and slowly moves away.
Up your way out of this!
The most compelling thing about the White Rabbit definitely is his strong connection to the demon realm, to the point he can get whatever he wants from it. That includes Virgil's amulet and his blood for the ritual. When he gets his blood, the White Rabbit picks up he is Dante's brother pretty quickly, despite being given the items in his Nilo Angelo form. However, the two don't have the best relationship, as Virgil does not see him worthy of the Force Edge. Anyway, now it's time to move on to the grand finale, where all three characters converge. The final episode of Devil May Cry Season 1 is action-packed and has a lot of interesting revelations. In the aftermath of the demon fight, Lady is given credit for Dante's actions despite being paralyzed. Baines then attempts to recruit Dante, with him disagreeing and him almost being apprehended. However, the White Rabbit, now roided up on demon blood, shows up. This leads to Dante and Lady teaming up with the goal of breaking his heart valve. Dante fights him, but unfortunately the gun Lady gave him seemingly breaks and his sword falls out of reach. Now, having Dante's blood along with Virgil's and both amulets, the White Rabbit unleashes hell on Earth. He stabs Dante with the Sword of Sparta, which the Force Edge turned into. However, Dante survives and activates his devil trigger once he realizes the brother he thought was dead all this time still lives. Lady shoots the heart valve and Dante ends up finishing the job, leading to the White Rabbit's death. However, before he dies, he leaves some concerning parting words, which may foreshadow what people will think of Dante as the show progresses.
You believe you're on one side, the right one, but you're wrong. Eventually, you realize you are welcomed by no one. Unlovable.
The last few minutes of this episode are wild. It seems Dante and Lady will be working alongside each other, with her having learned her lesson. However, she clearly hasn't, and she injects him with a sedative, knocking him out due to her still trusting Baines. Anders, being an idiot, carried the demon portal with him, and Baines ends up killing him for being in allegiance with the White Rabbit. He then uses the portal to wage war in hell and ends up colonizing it. Damn, it's crazy this version of the US government ended up being eviler than the demons. During this montage set to the Green Day song American Idiot, we see the Ouroboros Corporation from Devil May Cry 2, and the character Lucia from the game appears earlier in the show. Damn, does that mean I need to play the second game to understand Season 2 of the show? Fuck! Anyway, joke aside, the first season ends with Dante frozen in ice with his weapons and amulet confiscated. Oh yeah, also Virgil, after transforming out of Nilo Angelo, rescues demons from the Sapiens, noting he is in allegiance with Mundus and that he is a storm that is approaching. Overall, the Devil May Cry Netflix cartoon was a really fun watch. However, when I went online immediately after watching it, I learned it was quite a divisive one for the fandom. One of the biggest complaints, which I mentioned earlier, has been Lady's characterization. The swearing was excessive to some fans. Fans also didn't like the twist that not all demons she killed were bad. People were also upset about decisions made about Virgil's character with the little we've seen of him in the show. The biggest complaint I've heard from some fans is that Virgil would not give his amulet away to anyone. Another criticism I heard is about him working alongside Mundus in the show and that he'd never do that. However, to be fair, he hasn't gotten too too much screen time yet, so the full context isn't known. Since I am new to the franchise and have just recently started playing the games after, I figured it'd be interesting to have someone who has been a fan of the games prior to share her opinion on the show. Take it away, Dove.
Hello everyone, it is I, Dove of the human variety from the Mistress Dove YouTube channel. I'm popping in not just to share my own thoughts on the show, but to share those thoughts from, well, the perspective of a longtime fan of these games. Now, to just rip that band-aid off immediately, I think the Netflix series is a fun ride and an enjoyable watch, but nowhere near as well written as the games that they're based on are, especially when it comes to its characters. Now, it's clear that the writing team behind this show are going for a different thing from the games, and that's fine. But adaptation isn't about copying the source material word for word with no adjustments. It's about adapting that material from one medium to another while keeping the spirit intact. For example, Zack Snyder's Watchmen is arguably quote-unquote very faithful in the sense that that movie copies the story from the book almost beat for beat, only really changing like a handful of things that don't really change anything meaningful except for the ending. But all the things it does that are directly taken from the comic are done in a fairly shallow way of just copying the panels without really understanding what the text was about. Proven by the fact that characters like Night Owl, who were meant to be pathetic losers way past their prime, were still given the Snyder treatment by getting cool action hero moments, when such moments weren't really a thing in the comic. By comparison, something like One Piece live action made a handful of sizable and noticeable changes from the original manga, but it was still fairly well received, and I would argue it's a pretty good adaptation because those changes didn't take away from the original story. But instead, those changes were made to adapt that original narrative into the 8-episode television series format that the show was written for. Essentially, adaptation is a much more delicate operation than a lot of people online would have you believe. And the question I'd like to attempt to answer in what little time I have here on Shade's channel is Netflix's Devil May Cry a good adaptation of the game series it shares a name with? And to keep it kind of short, my answer is honestly no. Like, for what it's worth, I don't think this is a bad show, but I think it absolutely falls short as an adaptation. And no, it's not because they have a plot about humanizing demons and showing that they're not all mindless monsters, while also showing that sometimes humans can be more sinister than any devil, because that's literally a theme in the original game. Specifically, Devil May Cry 3 kinda hammers this one home and does it pretty directly. And anyone acting like it wasn't a theme present in those games weren't paying attention or never played them to begin with and is simply riding a grift. The only thing is, it was just presented very differently in the show than how the games chose to do it. And personally, I think the games just did it better. Now, I'm not personally bothered by the show choosing to be in its own canon. In fact, I prefer that, especially since Madhouse's anime series from 2007 was already a very good canon series that took place in the prime timeline of the games. If you're looking for a Devil May Cry series that's in line with the games, is canon to the games, and it's just a better representation of the series and its characters and what it is, then I'd highly suggest watching that show instead. It's actually all up on YouTube, weirdly enough, and in fact there's even an upload that edits all 12 episodes together into one mega movie sort of thing. It's all in English dub, but this is one of those cases where I feel like anyone looking for it is probably looking for the English dub in the first place. Now, as for Netflix's cartoon series from 2025, it's a massive departure from the games, and I don't mean just in terms of canon. There are characters here that, adaptation-wise, I'm not super against. Dante's a much simpler character in Netflix's series compared to how he was in the games, sure, and that's an issue I hope gets resolved in Season 2 if they choose to actually delve into his story and who he is past the surface of being the wacky wahoo pizza man. I mean, he's still a fun character to watch, and absolutely is well performed by Johnny Young Boss, who does a solid job playing this character and separating his performance as Dante from his performance as Nero in the games proper. But it's kind of wild how much of a side character Dante feels like in a show that's marketing was almost entirely centered around him. And I feel like that's a fair thing to criticize, or at least point out, considering how much of that marketing just plastered Dante's face everywhere. Straight up, cards on the table, I don't believe that Dante's the main protagonist of the show, and I think that's fine, and that the actual main characters of the show are Mary, Arkham, and the White Rabbit. Now, Mary's the show's version of Lady, and I have way more to say about her than I do about the White Rabbit, for a couple reasons. I choose to refer to the Netflix version of Lady as Mary for, well, again, a couple reasons. The main reason is because she's called Mary for the entire run of Season 1, and is only really called Lady once or twice by Dante specifically. But also, she doesn't really feel like the same character as Lady from the games. And that's not to say I dislike Mary. Well, I don't dislike her entirely, because I want to make that clear, but she really isn't the same character. They have similar starting points and similar quirks, but fundamentally they're not the same people. Lady and Mary are both women whose fathers killed their mothers and became obsessed with demons and their power. But Lady's father did this, and then she immediately went to the Timmy Negru after him. There, she held a massive hatred for demons that was basically being fueled by the high of just recently witnessing her father execute her mother in the sake of demonic power, and thus was exceptionally biased and clouded by rage against all of demonkind. And she saw them as the cause for tearing her family and life apart. And it's through the events of her introduction game, Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening, that Lady comes to learn that demons are not all inherently violent monsters with no moral codes or feelings, as well as coming to accept that her father, despite being human, and how she had perceived him up until that point, was capable of such evil. Lady didn't have time for her anger and hatred to fester into bigotry against demons that grow for years and years of resentment, unlike Mary in the show, who has exactly that happen. Season 1 of the show is trying to play with a very similar theme as Lady's story in DMC 3, but with a very different context and in a pretty different direction overall. Mary's father still killed her mother and still hungered after the power of demons, but Mary, unlike Lady, didn't have an event so close afterwards and was left to just sort of sit on these feelings for years. And Darkcom, as a government organization, took advantage of Mary's blind hatred to mold her into their perfect little tool, to turn her into someone who sees no issue in slaughtering demons, or, as the show consistently calls them, Makayans, because the Netflix series decided to borrow from Darkstalkers. And yes, I'm aware that the term Makai basically means demon world, but you cannot convince me this decision wasn't done to tie back into Darkstalkers when this is the same show that modeled the Darkcom uniforms after Captain Commando, has a Mega Man toy literally show up, and has Dante openly yap with Vienzo about his Raccoon City job. Like come on here. Look, again, time limit, back on Mary. She's essentially a worst case scenario version of Lady, which in turn makes her a pretty different person. She's a version of Lady who didn't have a Dante nor a Timmy Negru incident to help her through the stages of grief that came with the loss of her family and the life that she knew before. She's a version of Lady who was groomed by the government into a senseless killing machine to push their agenda, and yes, I believe the commentary being done here with Mary's character is clear as day. Honestly, it works for the story that the show wants to tell and helps to emphasize the message and themes it's trying to convey. And I think on her own, Mary is a fine character, and I honestly didn't even really bat an eye at her constant swearing, but that might just be because I like Has-Been Hotel, so I'm entirely numb to the concept of swearing. I also think Mary, as a diversion from Lady, makes sense because realistically you could argue that this could have happened, or something akin to it could have happened to someone with the same setup as Lady if she didn't go through what she did in the Timmy Negru during DMC 3. But that's kind of the thing. Mary is not Lady because of this. And I'd completely understand if a fan of Lady did not like Mary as a character because of all of that. Because she's not really the character that we fell in love with from those games. Lady was one of the 3 main characters of DMC 3, and like Dante and Virgil, her story carried with it themes of family, legacy, and discovering oneself when burdened with the weight of what's come before you. And all of that is just sorta not really there with Mary or this show. Hell, it kinda highlights the fact that Virgil and Dante aren't really strong characters in the show either. Like again, Dante's an entertaining character, but he's nowhere near as deep or interesting as his game counterpart, and Virgil's an overglorified cameo where most of the time is spent where he's Nero Angelo being set up for the next season. season, so he's not really doing anything. And it kind of, in a way, misses the point of what made that trio work in DMC3's story. But Mary's story is more about overcoming her bigotry and coming to learn the lesson Lady did at the end of DMC3, though it's clear she didn't fully learn it by the end of season 1, considering she betrays Dante and brings him back in with Darkham, despite witnessing them bomb Makai, which at this point she understands is a realm of sentient people, not unlike humans, and even showed earlier in the series she was willing to spare them and treat them like people because her loyalty to Darkham is something so strongly hard-coded into her that even with all this wavering, it's not fully gone just yet. I imagine season 2 will see this plotline pick up, and most of her time in season 2, story-wise, will undoubtedly be focused on her breaking out of this mindset. And honestly, I don't mind the idea of it not being something that's fully broken out of by the end of the season, because stuff like this that's trained into you isn't easy to just unlearn. And if they play their cards right in the next season, I think it could be a pretty engaging arc to see unfold for this character. But this character isn't Lady outside of a few similarities in backstory and the design, which is a shame, but I don't entirely hate the idea of this Elseworld story, which, let's not kid ourselves, it's an Elseworld story, choosing to take this character in a direction that she couldn't be taken in the games. Well, I'm fine with that anyway. And the weirdest thing is, the way Mary's written in this show made me appreciate Lady from the games way more as a character than I already did, because it made me reevaluate what made that character in those games work so well in comparison to this character from the show that doesn't really hit quite the same. And again, if you were coming here to see Mary be like a Lady from the games, you will leave this show disappointed, and boy were people disappointed in Mary specifically. Meanwhile, the White Rabbit is a character lifted from the DMC3 manga. Notice how consistently there seems to be a lot of things that are like major to the story lifted from DMC3 and DMC3 related things, but I actually do like what the show does with him here. He's an intriguing villain for the series as he acts as an ideological opposite to Mary, and the way his story of hating humans due to them taking away his family parallels Mary's own story of hating demons due to her viewing them as an all evil that would take away everything she loved like they took away her family. There's even an episode in the show in the first season dedicated to presenting this parallel in as few words as possible by showing both of their backstories side by side, and this is the episode where the Evanescence song made for this show actually shows up. And honestly, it's cool, and I'm gonna be real, I think the White Rabbit might be the best character in the show. I'd go way more in depth on him, but I kind of spent most of my allotted time on Mary, so unfortunately I have to save that for my own video. Subscribe to my channel below. So I'm gonna try and just wrap up soon given the time limit I have, and I would like to just mention real quick that Virgil as a character, while I'm not super happy with him right now, I'm reserving my judgment regarding how the show handles him until we see more. But right now, it's not looking great, given Sparta's nobility was crucial to why Virgil is the way he is in the present in the games, and then that aspect of Sparta's character is just gone from his backstory, so now there's just like a gaping hole in Virgil's like whole thing that they're gonna have to elaborate on, and considering Adi Shankar doesn't seem to understand Virgil as a character all that much, I'm a little concerned about that. Regardless, I'm not super used to trying and keep my thoughts condensed. Being verbose is sort of my forte, but I'll summarize my thoughts as saying that I had fun with the show, but it's definitely not the great, fantastic adaptation that I wanted the show to be, nor is it the one that I imagine other fans would want as well. A more faithful adaptation to watch would be the Madhouse anime from 2007. Alright, that's all the time I have left. I have to get back to playing Baldur's Gate 3 on my Nintendo 3DS. Thanks for having me, Shade.
Thank you for your insight, Dove. While I haven't finished the games, I totally get what Dove is saying. Devil May Cry Netflix is not a very faithful adaptation. I know this based on the cutscenes I've seen online that got posted after the show came out. Based on clips I've seen from Devil May Cry 3 alone, Mary from Devil May Cry Netflix is a far cry from how she was depicted in the game. Like, her monologue about Sparta in the third game and the show are night and day.
You've heard of it, haven't you? The legend of Sparta? When I was young, my father would tell me stories about it. Long ago, in ancient times, a demon rebelled against his own kind for the sake of the human race. With his sword, he shut the portal to the demonic realm and sealed the evil entities off from our human world.
Sparta's one hell dweller who might be worth not vaporizing on sight. He was a demon knight, whatever that means. Big bad warrior, blah blah blah. Served as the right hand of Mundus. And I guess Sparta woke up one day and realized, hey, this is evil as fuck. So he rebelled. He fought against Mundus, taking out hundreds of his own former legions. Kind of the least he could fucking do, really.
Based on what I've read and seen about 3, she does not swear like in the show and isn't a part of Darkcom in the games. I totally get why Dove sees Mary as a totally different character instead of Lady from the games, as she honestly is. How different a character is Lady, though? Well, I'm gonna find out as I'll be using the 2007 anime as a frame of reference. I've been meaning to give it a look, and I am craving more Devil May Cry television content, so I'll be looking at that as a newcomer as well. Devil May Cry 2007 is a very interesting anime. This is because it is canon to the games and even has Ruben Langdon, the voice of Dante from Devil May Cry 3 through 5, reprise his role. Although he is credited by the name Justin Cause for some reason. I'm not too far in the games just yet, but I have some familiarity with the characters based on the little I've played, along with clips I've seen online. Devil May Cry the Animated Series is what the anime is called on DVD releases, which is funny since the Netflix show is promoted as an anime despite being animated in South Korea by Studio Mir. The 2007 anime, however, is traditional, made by Madhouse, the studio behind Death Note. This anime is different from the Netflix show in that, at the start, it's more episodic in nature, rather than solely being a linear story. Each episode is titled as being a mission, similar to the games. I like how it initially starts out as Demon of the Week, as we get a lot of interesting demons who Dante must hunt in each episode. Despite that, the show expects you to have played the video games as characters' backstories are not fully explained. Initially, I was gonna play the games prior to the show, those games being the ones in the HD collection. While I am progressing through the games as I am writing this video, I think it'd be smarter to save my thoughts for a future video. This video is titled Devil May Cry Anime from a newbie perspective after all, so honestly, I think it'd be better if I cover it from a fresh off the Netflix show perspective. Also, due to my time on the internet and the fact I read through the art books before finishing the first and third games, I know bits and pieces of Devil May Cry game plot points. Anyway, without further ado, it's time to talk about the Devil May Cry anime, or should I say the animated series as the DVD proudly says. I'm just gonna call it the 2007 anime though. The Devil May Cry 2007 anime has a great start with Dante trying to order a strawberry sundae at a bar. The bartender, of course, does not make one for him because that's not what they serve. A bar is an establishment that sells alcohol, obviously, but this scene says a lot about Dante's character. After being denied a sundae, he reveals why he really is here. He heard demons are hiding in the bar. Dante ends up killing them and leaves. Overall, this is a great opening. This scene shows that Dante is childish to a degree with his eating habits. This fits his character as he is a dude who has a diet that consists mostly pizza in the games. While this aspect of his character is still there, he still manages to take threats seriously and is a badass like he is from what I've seen in the source material. Unlike Netflix Dante, who is less experienced, the canon predecessor in this anime has gone through the events of the third and first game. He has Ebony and Ivory at the start too, unlike Netflix Dante, who will get these guns in season 2 of the show. Anyway, the first mission of this show is titled Devil May Cry, and it's a wild ride from start to finish. The first episode introduces Patty Lowell, an 8-year-old girl who, while being an orphan, is believed to be the heiress to a massive fortune. Due to her potentially inheriting a massive fortune, demons want to kill her. What a crazy premise for the start of the show. It's clear Dante can't stand her at first, with him not wanting to be a babysitter, and then he says this.
Sorry, young lady. Maybe in 10 years or so, I'll ask you on a date.
Dante, you need to chill, bro. Don't want you to be in a cell next to Drake. Anyway, Dante is given the task of escorting her to a mansion by a broker named J.D. Morrison so she can reap the rewards of her inheritance. Wow, what an interesting character. I wonder if he's in the games. Yeah, I played a small bit of Devil May Cry 5, and I knew his name sounded familiar when I watched this show. He got retconned as being black in that game. Thank goodness he started off as an anime-only character for a while, since scripters online would be really annoying about him. Honestly, I really thought this demons going after Patty plotline would span the entire show, but no, it gets resolved in the very first episode. Still, we get the introduction of Sid, a low-level demon who makes little appearances all throughout the show, only for him to play a bigger role later. Anyway, it turns out an adult woman with the same name as Patty inherited the fortune and used her as a decoy. She feels bad she put a child in harm's way, so she gives her some of her inheritance. Adult Patty wants her to live in the mansion, but she decides to live with Dante instead. Honestly, I don't totally blame her, as Dante went out of his way to protect Patty, and as far as the adult woman is concerned, aside from sharing the same name, her actions nearly killed a child. Anyway, Patty ends up giving some of her money to the orphanage she grew up in, and ends up living in Devil May Cry, which she bought decorations for. Dante then is upset that his reward for escorting Patty, a strawberry sundae, got eaten by her. I overall love how, while this show is episodic, it has continuity as Patty lives with Dante for the rest of the show. The Devil Hunter himself is quite interesting in this anime, as you learn once Lade shows up in Mission 2 titled Highway Star that Dante is in serious debt and owes her a ton of money. I really love the established relationship these two have in the 2007 anime. Don't really have much to say about Highway Star, but I really like her appearance in it. At the start of the episode, she takes on a demon voiced by Vic Mignogna who masquerades as a creepy guy hitting on women who she ends up killing. Not elaborating on that further, but I figured I'd mention that scene as overall it's a great introduction for Lady. Another great episode featuring her is Mission 4 titled Rolling Thunder, which focuses on her meeting Trish from Devil May Cry 1 for the first time. The initial rivalry between the two was really fun to see happen on screen. She really gets on Lady's nerves to the point she even swears.
You had better get ready, demon bitch.
Honestly, I wonder if Adi Shankar saw this episode, which caused him to Flanderize her character to constantly swear. I really love the lady in this show, who I know previously had conflict with Dante in the third game. Seeing her battle against Trish overall was really fun, with her being misled by a priest who turned out to be a demon in disguise. The two become friends at the end, with them buying clothes and footing the bill to Dante. Damn! Dante gets no respect in this show. And Patty bought clothes too without telling him? Dante's credit score gotta be past the negatives at this rate. Speaking of debt, that's a big aspect of Dante that is explored in this anime. He does not profit off his demon hunting due to the large amount of debt he's in. Another aspect of the anime I like is how it handles characters in each episode. Mission 3 titled Not Love I really liked, as it focused on a demon named Bradley romantically pursuing a human woman named Angelina. Angelina's dad hates him and tells Dante to kill him. I really love this episode as it focuses on Bradley redeeming himself, choosing to be a human that protects others rather than be a lackey for demons, which he initially is. He rebels against Balfagor and seals him from the human world with the help of Dante. Bradley even heals Angelina's dad and saves him. He's pissed at the healer demon still though and wants Dante to kill him, but he declines. However, by the end of the episode, Dante is told that the dad's warmed up to Bradley. Another episode I really like is Mission 5 titled In Private. This episode uses a trope I really love in media, where it focuses on an outsider character's perspective, that being Isaac's. I really love when shows use this storytelling technique, like what Doctor Who did with Love and Monsters along with Blink. It's just fun seeing a new character interact with the hero of the story without knowing as much as the audience does. Anyway, Isaac has a crush on on a waitress named Cindy, who looks quite familiar to me as the two both had cameos in the Netflix Devil May Cry show. Cindy, however, seems not to reciprocate those feelings as she wants to date a man like Dante who she can chase after. Due to his jealousy, Isaac ends up following the demon hunter around to figure out what she sees in him. It was hilarious seeing him make assumptions about Dante and grow to fear him as he gets out of context glimpses of him during his stalking. His obsession appears to get on Cindy's nerves as he tells her time and time again that Dante is bad news. However, Dante ends up speaking to her and learns that she actually is romantically interested in Isaac to an extent. He then goes after Isaac to deliver that message, but he freaks out, believing he wants to kill him. Dante fights a few demons using the bell that was given to Isaac by a mysterious figure earlier, that being Sid. Then he destroys it. He then tells Isaac what Cindy told him, noting that if he skips town, he won't be able to be in a relationship with her. So Isaac returns to the diner and attempts to act unbothered like Dante and orders a strawberry sundae from Cindy. The anime also explores Dante's past as Tony Redgrave, with a man named Ernest seemingly recognizing him as a childhood friend. He goes to Morris Island and doesn't remember any of it. Despite the kid Ernest knew in the past having white hair, Dante has no memory of any of these events. Despite not being the same Anthony, he is told by those close to him to lie since Ernest is happy being around him. However, after Ernest seemingly summons a demon who is after Dante, he gets mad at him for lying, calling him a murderer. Despite, Dante defeating the demon, thus saving Ernest, and everyone already knowing he isn't Tony, Sid, after witnessing Dante after this event, tells him humans are more horrid than demons. Sid then explains that the town would have been devoured by demons if it wasn't for Dante. He then disappears after Dante questions what plan he has.
Before I dive into Sid's plan that ends up being the ongoing story all along, I want to highlight the Demon of the Week aspect of this anime. I really like how it goes strong for 10 entire episodes. Not going over all of them, but I'll touch upon my favorites. Rock Queen is a very solid one where Dante meets a former agent of a female singer named Alina who ended up being possessed by a demon. Alina reminded me a lot of Ember from Danny Phantom given the fact her music makes her fans possessed with obsession. Overall, a really great episode that explores Dante's love for vintage records. Wishes Come True is a batshit crazy episode. The wishing demon is pretty funny as he doesn't grant wishes people ask for. In the same episode, Dante ends up going to a demon-controlled prison. There's also some sus moments in it, not gonna lie.
Well, don't you look cute and talk cute? And this firm body of yours, so delicious. You be a good boy and do like I tell you, and I won't do anything mean to you.
Hey, what the fuck?
The episode as a whole is wacky fun. Honestly, it's the most over-the-top goofy episode the show has in my opinion.
Knock it off, you fucking cheater. You know you just got busted. You can go to hell for all I care.
I shall grant your wish.
There's Death Poker, a solid murder mystery involving gambling that really surprised me by the end of it. In it, Dante must scope out who the king is, a demonic poker champ who doesn't let the losers live. Besides those, though, there's one demon-focused episode I love that touches on something crucial to Dante's character, brotherhood. The episode The Promise holds a mirror up to Dante. While I haven't played Devil May Cry 3 yet, it's abundantly clear the two demons introduced in this episode are meant to mirror him and his brother Virgil. Two demons show up named Modius and Baal. Both of them are apprentices of Dante and Virgil's father, Sparta. It is a really interesting concept as Modius is more relaxed like Dante while Baal has a thirst for power like Virgil. Modius is a pacifist for the majority of the episode with him not harming anyone. He is similar to Dante in a lot of ways as he shares his love for strawberry sundaes. He even gets upset when one is too sweet and Dante realizes he was right. Modius even gets close with Patty who promises to make him a sundae. She notes how similar he is to Dante. Despite Baal knowing Modius Motius to be a strong warrior in the past, his brother refuses to pick up the sword. Ball's goal in this episode is to kill Dante so that he can absorb his soul and gain Sparta's power. He attempts to take on Dante, but he succeeds in killing him. After witnessing his brother's fatal defeat, Motius has no reason to live except to avenge him. Motius then dies off screen by Dante's hand and unfortunately does not get to eat the strawberry sundae Patty had planned to make for him. As someone new to the series, I was still able to recognize the clear parallels between the brothers Sparta and the apprentices that their father trained. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about the Demon of the Week aspect of the show. Those were the standouts in my eyes as far as well-written narratives go. With all this covered now, I'll go over the two-part finale, Showtime and Stylish. The last 2 episodes of Devil May Cry tie the previous 10 episodes all together. It turns out that Patty's mom Nina was alive the whole time and ditched her daughter to keep her safe from demons who were after her blue gem, which is a family heirloom. She wants to give the gem to Dante to keep herself safe from the demons who want it. Sid is after it as he's gathered together all the MacGuffins needed to unseal the demon Abigail, whose power he wants to make use of, with the blue gem being the final piece. Yeah, this whole time, Sid was a mastermind with a decent amount of the demons possessing keys of sorts to the demon realm. Dante is given the task of looking after the gem and soon Nina wants it back. Unfortunately for Nina though, her daughter immediately recognizes her and desperately wants to see her. After hearing she wants the gem back, Patty rushes to the hotel with the hopes of impressing her mother. However, unfortunately, she ends up in Sid's trap and he succeeds in opening the demon realm. Dante jumps in, hoping to defeat Sid with ease, only for him to be nailed to a cross with his own sword. The finale that follows is solid, with Patty's mother Nina explaining they are both ancestors of a man named Alan Lowell. He employed demons in the past and was a sorcerer, but Abigail rebelled against him and he ended up sealing him back in the demon realm. With the gem Alan's tear destroyed, it seems Dante is stuck there, but thankfully the locket Patty was given gives her the power to enter it. She ends up saving Dante. While that's going on, we also get some cool badass action between Lady and Trish against a legion of demons. They were such a great duo in this anime, so I definitely want to see how the two fare in 4 and 5 when I get there. Anyway, long story short, Patty passes out and Dante notes the battle that follows is for adults only. He ends up succeeding in beating Sid despite him having Abigail's power, noting that his strong soul gives him strength, something Sid lacks. Then, Sid out of cowardice pretends to apologize since he's weak now and begs Dante for his life. And you know, given the fact he attempted genocide on a large scale, Dante cannot have this guy live, powerful or not. The ending is a really happy one, with Patty reunited with her mother, who Dante says she needs to live with now. Despite her getting on his nerves, Dante misses Patty when she leaves, as she would clean up after him. He then takes a job against demons in another country, and hey, Lady and Trish are there too. While he's gone though, Patty actually ends up cleaning the Devil May Cry office. Overall, the finale was action-packed and was a wholesome end to the show. Overall, the Devil May Cry 2007 anime was a really fun watch. From what I've heard online, fans did not like it initially due to it lacking the fast-paced action of the games, but I had a lot of fun watching it. I am guessing the initial criticism for the anime came from the fact people who played the series were likely younger when it came out. Makes me wonder if I had seen the anime after finishing the games when they came out, if I'd have a different initial opinion. It makes sense given the show definitely was made for an adult audience given the fact it is rated TVMA, and I overall really loved its narrative. This Dante has clearly gone through a lot since the events of 3 and 1. I still need to play them, but I know he did seemingly kill his brother Virgil, who was turned into Nilo Angelo by the demon Mundus in the first game. I love how Virgil isn't directly mentioned at all by name, but the show still found a way to acknowledge him in a symbolic way with the 2 demon brothers who fought alongside Sparta. Dante in this show reflects the way he acted in the first game as it precedes the series in this timeline. Honestly, it's a mix of his personality in 3 and 1. Makes sense since he is now 29, 1 year between entering his 30s. Damn, am. I am almost as old as Dante in this show. Dante, given his old age in this show, has to deal with crippling debt. Still, despite being an adult with responsibilities and that big burden, he doesn't let go of his childish side, and I appreciate that aspect of the character. He still likes strawberry sundaes and has a blast killing demons. This show definitely did its job, as I really want to play the games, especially given the fact this is canon, as characters like JD Morrison make a return in the 5th game, and Patty does as well, although it's via a phone call. She calls Dante and he ends up hanging up after hearing about her 18th birthday. It's good he skipped out though, as the events of the 5th game wouldn't have happened. I definitely am looking forward to taking a deep dive into the DMC video games in the future, since I love seeing Dante, Lady, and Trish on screen. In conclusion, I watched both Devil May Cry anime and found both enjoyable in their own right. Devil May Cry is a solid franchise, and while the Netflix anime was controversial in the fandom, I did overall really enjoy it. Is it the best out of the two though? No, it 100% goes to the 2007 one. While I did like Dante in the Netflix adaptation, I greatly prefer the characterizations from the show that came before, especially Lady's. Having 12 episodes also benefited the show well, as it gave the show ample time to do a Demon of the Week story structure that slowly built up to a satisfying conclusion. Honestly, I wish Devil May Cry Netflix had at least 10 episodes a season rather than 8. I miss when streaming shows had more episodes. Despite preferring the 07 anime though, Devil May Cry Netflix is a nice alternate take on the franchise in my eyes. It's far from perfect, but I like the early 2000s vibe it gives off with its setting and utilization of music from that era. The soundtrack was a deliberate choice by Addy, as it reflects the music he listened to during the era he played Devil May Cry 1. Addy clearly did some homework with all the references the show does, including using the diner and its patrons from the original anime, which I mentioned earlier. After watching both anime, one complaint I don't agree with now is the twist of some demons being good in Devil May Cry Netflix being a bad writing decision, as like Dove said in her segment, it is a theme that has always been present in the franchise. While I haven't fully played the games, this aspect is present in the DMC 2007 anime as well, with the redemption of Bradley the Healing Demon. The show does tackle things differently though, and I understand why changes like Lady's characterization upset people. Honestly, one thing I took away while reading and watching Addy's interviews while promoting Devil May Cry Netflix was that he is an OG Devil May Cry fan. Not sure how many of the games he's played, but he has said on the record he was a big fan of 1 back in the day. There's also that infamous interview where he talks about how he was upset he wasn't the one to bring the franchise back from the dead after Devil May Cry 5 got announced, while his show was in development.
So, and I didn't know that there was a Devil May Cry 5 coming out.
You didn't know?
No.
Wow.
I got actually unhappy when they, you know, so I signed the deal and I'm like, yeah, great, I'm doing it. And then they're like, good news, we have Devil May Cry 5 coming out.
Were you hoping to play it before doing your adaptation? Is that what you're saying? Or you just...
No, I actually thought the franchise was dead.
Oh, I got you.
This was my thing. Like I like Dino Crisis. I
see.
And I thought I was bringing this thing back, and I'm like, oh, this is like a modern fucking thing. Like this is ongoing. Then I should have done Street Fighter.
That surprised me honestly, given how many DMC5 references made it into the show. While I haven't fully played through the 5th game yet, I know some songs from it were used, like Devil Trigger during Dante's transformation scene, and Virgil's theme, Bury the Light, was played at the end with the Virgil reveal. I get the criticism people have for Devil Trigger being used for Dante, as that's Nero's theme. Yeah, Johnny Young Bosch voices Netflix Dante and Nero in the games, but the point still stands. As for the Virgil scene, he says that I am that storm, which is a line from the song. I thought it was cool personally, but I still understand if some people disliked its use. A criticism I've heard is that Devil May Cry Netflix is fanfiction, and it definitely holds weight. While I hear it being thrown around as a negative online, I honestly appreciate the show for what it is. I appreciate the show at least because it has made Devil May Cry a hot topic again, but I get why people are upset given Addy said the show would be a faithful adaptation. It's its own continuity separate from the games, like the DMC remake game, which I hear is controversial but really fun gameplay-wise. Despite DMC Netflix being its own interpretation, there are aspects of the show I am really looking forward to, like seeing Dante's appearance change each season to represent a different game. He has long hair and is getting ebony and ivory in season 2, as we got a tease for it in an Evanescence music video of all things. How fitting. With season 2, I really hope it reflects the games a bit more, given the fact that Addy is a self-proclaimed Devil May Cry 1 fan. Will it be good? Only time will tell, although I don't blame people for skipping out due to them disliking the first season or for viewing Addy as an annoying troll on Twitter. He truly is the modern day UE Bull, except we have yet to see him box. Anyway, the trailer for season 2 just released, as I was in the midst of editing this video, so I figured I'd talk about the fandom's reaction to that as well.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Like the release of Season 1, it seems to be already very polarizing. Complaints now have to do with this incarnation of Virgil's new voice and design. While Season 2 obviously won't top the games, I hope to at least enjoy it as its own separate thing, just like I did with the first season. At this point, I've accepted it'll never be a one-to-one adaptation. It's clearly loosely based on the games. While a lot of vocal longtime fans may criticize the show online, it clearly has its audience, with it topping Netflix charts when Season 1 came out and the Season 2 trailer upload getting a mostly positive reception. Overall, I am definitely highly anticipating Season 2 in 2026. However, before that comes out, I got something else planned for my channel. Now that I covered both anime and got no more Devil May Cry media to consume, I'll move onward to the games. I've been playing the first game ever since I finished watching DMC Netflix. If you want to see my journey through the games, follow me on Twitch, as I plan on streaming the series starting with the Devil May Cry 3 Crimson mod. I am hoping to get the series finished either before Season 2 in 2026 or before Devil May Cry 6 whenever that gets announced. This has been ShadeX, and I hope you all feel nothing but good vibes.